Hey fam, what's good? What's good? I hope that you're all well and keeping safe. Welcome back to another one. In the comment section, let me know, how was your week of trading? Was it a good one? Was it a mid one? Or was it a bad one? Right? Ours was kind of mid to good, right? We found ourselves gaining a beautiful 800 plus pips on the NASDAQ, right? And this was over the course of Tuesday and Wednesday. On Thursday, we found ourselves having a runner, right? And to those who don't know, what is a runner? Now, let's say, for instance, you found yourself executing a trade, right, on the lowest lot size you find yourself having, depending on the brokerage you're going to have. Like in this case, let's say, for instance, a 0.10, right? If you are finding yourself using XM, you won't have the option to close a portion of your trade, right? But if you are going to find yourself trading with a 0.20, right, or a 0.02, then you can still find yourself having the option of closing a portion of your trade, right? So you can close 50% of your trade if you are finding yourself being in profit, right? And you can then find yourself having the remaining 0.01 still running, right? So that right there is basically your runner, right? So I had a runner, and on Thursday found itself being stopped out, right? It was a long runner. And Thursday evening, I then found myself executing a long trade, right? The first trade, I found myself then get stopped out of that one. That was a nice 60 pip stop loss hit, right? And then later the evening, I found myself having another actual trade on Thursday, right? And this was a nice 100 pip stop loss. I found myself being in profit, out of profit, you know what, throughout Friday. And you know what, NFP came, we found ourselves having somewhat of a shift towards the upside. I was in profit, thought, hey yo, you know what, I am good. You know what, I'm safe. We are not gonna find ourselves having that beautiful shift towards the upside, right? And then later onwards, boom, prices found itself having a shift back towards the downside. Stopped me out, right? Whole 100 pips gone. So we find ourselves having a beautiful 800 plus pips towards the upside. However, you know what, we still find ourselves having that 160 pip stop loss hit. But you know what, that is all good. That is all good. We have a new week ahead, so we can still find ourselves, you know what, making the most, utilizing what we are finding ourselves having. The shorts was kind of shocking, right? Shocking in a sense of, check this out. Even when it comes down to the COT report, right? Now, this is basically the COT data that I'm finding myself gathering, right? And based on the COT report, check this out. This was basically last week, right? Now, looking at the NASDAQ, right, we can actually see that we had a significant shift in our actual longs, right? When it comes down to the NASDAQ, if we can round this off, this will basically be 52% of people found themselves going long the previous week, right? And then if we can round this off, this will basically be then 60%, right? Found themselves then going long. So we can say that that difference rather at this point will basically be 8, right? So a plus 8% of people found themselves going long, right? And over here, we can see a significant drop when it comes down to our shorts as well, right? So this simply means that more long contracts was basically found itself being pushed within the market. Shorts contracts was finding themselves, you know, being taken off. And that to me was like confidence that, or confluence that we can find ourselves having those actual longs coming through on the NASDAQ. Did we see the longs coming through? Yes, we did find ourselves seeing some longs coming through, right? Yes, it was some beautiful pups towards the upside. However, the short still found itself empowering, right? The short still found itself flexing. Even if we're going to look at the DXY over here as well, right? The DXY, we can see a decline in our longs, right? A decline in our longs. And if we can look at our short, we can see that we find ourselves having somewhat of an incline when it comes down to our shorts. Did we find ourselves having those sellers stepping in to the market with the DXY? Yes, we had, right? We had, definitely. But on the NASDAQ, in overall, we still find ourselves having that actual shift back towards the downside. However, you know what? This is the COT report. This is not something that you are just going to find yourself being totally dependent on, right? As it is almost like an actual indicator as well. You know, it is somewhat delayed, but how you can still find yourself using your, you know, your technicals to assist you when it comes down to the charts, right? So, yeah, you know, it was a shocker, right? It was a complete shocker. My apologies if you guys can find yourself hearing the background, right? You know, we busy with some renovations. Um, but let's see what is up for this week. All right, let's see what's up for this week. So on Monday, right, we do not have any news events coming through. So Monday we are quite clean, right? Guys, keep in mind that I'm only looking at the high volatility news events, right? The ones who will have somewhat of an impact within the market. All right. So there might still be some moderate ones or some low events finding itself coming throughout the week. But you know, and I'm not too focused on that. I want to know where is the volatility, right? So on Monday we don't have any events coming through. So on Monday, you know what, we will be quite cool, calm. However, on Tuesday we are finding ourselves having an event coming through, right? We are having it around about 4, so we will be quite perfectly fine with our actual with our news as well. Keep in mind that, you know what, we are finding ourselves trading at 3:30 again, right? For those who don't know, right? So we are finding ourselves trading then again. So the New York Stock Exchange will find itself opening up at 3:30. Okay. On Wednesday, we are finding ourselves having a few news events coming through, and the one that should be standing out to you will basically be CPI coming through at 2:30. Right now, this is gonna be a huge one as usual. CPI, PPI, they are huge fundamental driven events that is coming throughout this week. So Wednesday and Thursday is gonna be a crazy one, right? But should we stress about it? That's the question. No, we don't have to, right? Because the majority of the volatility will find itself coming through at 2:30. Is that our trading time? No, it is not, right? Around about 3:30, that is our trading time. You know what? But we don't really have to be too cautious. We can still find ourselves executing some trades when it comes down to Wednesday, right? On Thursday, the exact same thing, right? We are still perfectly fine, as well as we are only having our PPI coming through at 2:30, right? So and Friday, obviously, you know what, Fridays, it depends on what's happening, right? On Friday, if I'm finding myself going out, then I'm not even looking at the charts. I don't really prioritize myself when it comes down to a Friday on the charts, right? If I want to find myself being there, then okay, cool. But if not, then you know what, I honestly don't care. All right, let me know in the comment section what is your trading days, right? What is your trading days? And to plug you guys up, XM is finding themselves running a $30 deposit bonus for this week. So this simply means if you want to find yourself testing out the platform, you can find yourself gaining a free $30 and you can find yourself trading with it. Obviously, you can't find yourself withdrawing the $30, but if you are finding yourself making a profit on it, right, you can find yourself withdrawing your profit, right? So if you want to find yourself making use of it, the link will be in my description. Find yourself signing up and test out the platform. You know what, and make sure to let me know how you find it. All right, so let's jump within the charts quick fast. All right, so looking at the NASDAQ, we can see that we are having a beautiful shift back towards the downside, right? And 2 weeks ago, we basically pointed out that we are looking at this as an impulse correction for an impulsive move back towards the upside, right? We said that we can't get out our FIP from this low to the high, right? And we basically want to see price find itself come all the way back down into the equilibrium, or at least within a discounted area, so that we can find ourselves having somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside, right? So let's see what is happening when it comes down to the NASDAQ on the weekly time frame. So first of all, I'm going to start off with our lows. All right, so we can see that we are having a clear uptrend, right? Some beautiful higher highs finding itself created, and you know, some beautiful higher lows being created right over here. Now check this out. Some of you may know that I found myself doing this. Some of you may know the new ones, right? Make sure to find yourself hitting the like, hitting the subscribe button as well, right? Now check this out. We do have one touch, two touches, three touches right over there. and we can potentially find ourselves having a fourth touch over there as well, right? But then we also have like these lows finding themselves just chilling right over here, which I am not too comfortable with, right? What I find myself doing is the following, right? I do the following, just like this. Boom. Make that a little bit bigger, just like that, and just place it on the lows, just like that, and then find myself removing this line. Right now, this is basically the same as you boxing out an area of support or an area of resistance. Right now, this is a whole area to me as well, right? This is a whole area on an actual trend line, which is serving as what? An area of what? Support or resistance in this case. Let me know in the comment section, an area of support or resistance. An area of support, right? And what do we know about an area of support? We do know that we need to see somewhat of a bounce from an area of support, right? So somewhat of upside momentum coming through when it comes down to the NASDAQ, right? Now for this week, I am gonna be quite cautious, you know what? I do not want to find myself risking too much, right? I want to see price presenting something clean and something clear to me, right? So if we can grab that Fibonacci out once again from the low to the high, just like that, right? We can see that price basically found itself coming to the equilibrium, had a beautiful touch and a shift, right? Looking at the left hand side, we can see that we are having a swing low, right? So we also did find ourselves doing what? We also did find ourselves taking out sell side liquidity, right? Sell side liquidity was violated, and we find ourselves tapping within a zone, a trend line, and we had a beautiful rejection from this area onwards as well, right? So if I can maybe just remove that right there and just look at what we find ourselves creating over here. D, what did you say previously? So previously, I basically said that if we're going to have a closure below this down close candle right over here, right, this is when we're going to find ourselves then changing market structure from a bull market to a bear market, right? Simply because this area would now serve as an area of supply to where we can potentially see the NASDAQ have a shift towards the upside in and then have that actual overall dip back towards the downside, right? So for those overall longs towards the upside, I am not too confident, right? I want to be brutally honest. I am not too confident in it, right? However, the long projection was basically 22,600 as a target, right? But if we want to see the chart have, or the NASDAQ have that shift towards the upside, what do we need to see on the daily time frame, right? The daily time frame needs to remain bullish in market structure, right? Bullish in market structure. So if we can see that bounce from this area and we remain creating those higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher low, yes, then we can find ourselves, moving through this area of supply and then have that shift back towards the downside, right? Let me show you guys like an example. Check this out. Check this out, right? It's basically the exact same thing that found itself happening a few years ago, right? See this. Can you see this candle right over there? Right, the odd candle in the upside momentum. Can you see that we find ourselves having a closure below right over there? Price came back into it, fluctuate a little bit, and then we find ourselves having a shift back towards the downside, right? So that same ideology, that same outlook is basically what I am finding myself having when it comes down to the PA we are finding ourselves having at this current moment, right? This over here will basically be a reverse pattern, if I can put it like that, of what we are seeing over here. Check this out. So over here with this down close candles, there was the odd candle, right? And we find ourselves having the shift above. We came back into it for the retest, and there we find ourselves having a further shift back towards the upside, right? So this is an area of demand, that is an area of supply, and as you guys can see, we are finding ourselves creating another area of supply as well, right? So me, Diego, what I will find myself doing is grab out a flip from that high to the low just like that, and then I will find myself boxing out the midpoint of our Fibonacci, right? Keep in mind that we can't grab it out just off yet, but if we can go to our daily time frame, right, if we can see that actual shift towards the upside from this area onwards, it would be valid for us to basically find ourselves, boxing out the Fibonacci like that, right? From the high to the low, just like that. All right. So all I basically just want to see price do is move from a discounted area back into a premium area for a potential shift back towards the downside. All right. Now, looking at above price over here, if we can basically just refine things a little bit more, looking at above price, right? Within this, premium area we are finding ourselves having right over here, can you guys see that we did find ourselves having a beautiful gap right over there, right? We had a gap right over there. We did find ourselves having somewhat of a closure below, basically came back into it for a retest. We had a beautiful shift back towards the downside from this area onwards as well, right? But this area is still serving as a significant area to me, as you know what, within that area we can see that we are having a beautiful area of supply coming through over there as well, right? We found ourselves having the closure below, but we never found ourselves coming back for the retest as well. So this is an area I will find myself just keeping my eye out on, right? Just boxing it out to see if we can have that overall shift towards the upside back into that region right over there. Now let's look at what's happening below price. All right. So what we can basically see is that we did find ourselves having this beautiful area of demand as we find ourselves boxing it out, right? We came into it, we had a beautiful shift towards the upside from this area onwards, right? We came back into it, we had a beautiful shift from this area upwards as well, right? And we can still see that we are within the region as well, right? We didn't find ourselves having a closure below. We didn't have the closure below, right? So if we would have had the closure below, we would then simply violate this area, right? Did we violate it? We haven't, right? We're still within the area. Yes, the wick found itself having a closure below, right? Or came below this sell side liquidity. But you know what? We didn't violate this area. All right. So, and I'm still looking at this as a significant area to where we can find ourselves having that shift back towards the upside from. However, you know what? Looking at below price, if I can maybe just shift this all the way down here, and maybe just extend this for you guys, just like that, bang, right? I'm still looking at this as some relatively equal lows finding itself coming through, right? Some equal lows right over there finding itself coming through. Now, when I'm seeing equal lows or equal highs, all I'm gonna find myself doing is looking at below or above these areas for potential points of interest to where I can find myself looking at price to have somewhat of a reaction from, right? Basically an area to where I can find myself buying or selling price. Okay, and below price, I can see that we are having somewhat of a a situation, if I can put it like that, right over here. Right? So once again, with the exact same ideology as what we might mention on the weekly time frame, right? We can see we had the impulse, somewhat of a correction, impulse, right? And within this little correction, can you guys see that we had an odd candle right over here, which is this bull one right there, this one, right? Box it out. We are gonna box it out, bang, just like that. All right, we are gonna find ourselves extending this box, because this box will now serve as what? As an area of demand. All right, why is this area significant? Once again, simply because once we find ourselves having the closure above, we never came back for the retest within this area, right? And keep in mind, on the weekly time frame, this is lining up within a discounted area as well, right? So if we can see the shift back towards the downside, you know what? I would love to see a bounce from this area as well. Because guys, listen, keep in mind that we are having CPI coming through. We're having PPI coming through as well. These are huge fundamental drivers, right? So you can have a whole lot of volatility being pushed within the market. So this right here Just because we are having somewhat of an actual push below our trend line does not mean that we can just simply find ourselves having that further shift back towards the downside, right? We can still find ourselves having the shift back towards the upside from this area onwards, and that will be my bias, right? I'm still having those longs finding itself coming through simply because we are now finding ourselves creating that lower low. What do you know about market structure? Once we find ourselves creating that lower low, we need somewhat of a pullback, right? To find ourselves doing what? Creating a lower high, right? So I'm looking at it from that perspective of, you know what, we are creating a lower low. We need somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside, right? And looking at the upside potential from where current PA is, right, that is 800 pips towards the upside. That is a whole lot of pips, right? If you are complaining about that, hey yo, then I don't know, right? And even from this area onwards, this is a whole 1300 odd pips move towards the upside, which is quite amazing as well, right? So that is my outlook when it comes down to the daily time frame. Let's shift all the way down to our H4 time frame and see what's happening within this area of demand on our H4 time frame, right? So all we basically want to find ourselves doing on the H4 time frame is looking if there is an area to where we can define it a little bit or refine it a little bit even more, right? So over here with this PA, once again the exact same ideology, right? We are finding ourselves having a odd candle right over there, and all I'm gonna find myself doing is boxing it out, and I'm just gonna find myself extending price, right? Had the closure above, never came back for the retest. Guys, I'm keeping it simple, right? I'm keeping my trading simple. And all I'm going to find myself doing is just give this one a different color so that I know that, you know what, if we are having a further, you know what, a further dip within this actual area of demand, this is an area to where I can find myself looking at price to find myself having somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside. I do know that many cats will find themselves looking at the area of demand, grab out that 50 percentage just like that, and they are gonna look at, you know what, taking price from the 50 percentage. How I'm basically finding myself looking at it is, you know what, I want to see if there is any untested areas within the region as we are having right over there. Okay, and if we would like to see the shift towards the upside from this area onwards, we need to see a change in market structure, right? Are we seeing a change in market structure just of yet? No, we don't, right? No, we don't. I'm only going to consider us being bullish in market structure if we can see a clear closure above this area, and then only I would see you will. I would say that yes, you know, we can find ourselves having that actual shift back towards the upside. So me, Diego, I am waiting for a clear change in structure from this bear market back into an actual bull market before looking for some beautiful long opportunities, right? So with me basically playing it quite safe, I'm gonna look at this as my actual target one, right? If I can maybe just do this, right? Where is the text box? Right there. As my T1, right there. Well, yes, T1 right there. Copy and clone. T2 will basically be these beautiful equal highs we have found ourselves creating right over there. Well, just like that. So this will be T2. Boom, T2, right? And then T3 will then basically be this high right over there, or basically just the equilibrium we have found ourselves, you know what, boxing out on our higher time frame, right? So that will basically be me over the course of this week. So if I can just find myself removing all the noise so that my charts don't look so messy, right? This will basically be it, right? So we basically covered everything that I am finding myself having my eye out on, right? Are you looking for this overall shift towards the downside? Not just of yet, right? Why? If we can basically sum it up for you guys, right? Weekly time frame, we did find ourselves grabbing out the Fibonacci from the low to the high. We saw that we are in an equilibrium, right? If we can see the deeper retracement back into the area of demand, what are we doing? We are then finding ourselves having a further shift within a discounted area, right? And if we can shift all the way down to our actual daily time frame, right, we will then identify the area of demand we are referring to, right? And those areas are still untested as well. So this simply means that those areas are quite significant as well, right? But enable for us to find ourselves having that shift towards the upside, what do we need to see on our H4 time frame? We need to see a change in market structure from a bear market into a bull market before we can look for any long opportunities, right? But in overall, me, Diego, I am still looking out for those longs. Why would that be? It will simply be because of market structure, right? We don't just move from a, you know what, a if I can put it like this, from a low to continuously just creating some lower lows and continuously just moving all the way down, all the way down. No, right? We do know that if we are creating a lower low, we need somewhat of an actual shift back towards the upside. And since this is a higher time frame outlook, a higher time frame bias, a higher time frame lower low we are finding ourselves creating and wanting to see that shift towards the upside, these are quite significant pips, right? And when I'm saying I'm seeing 300 odd pips towards the upside, I'm basically saying that within that range, right, within that price range, you can find yourself catching 60 pips, you can find yourself catching around about 100 pips, right, which is still significant, right, which is still significant. So me, Diego, that is my outlook for this coming week. If we are going to find ourselves having a further shift back towards the downside, I will wait for us to take out those equal lows, tap into the area of demand, and then find myself looking for some beautiful long opportunities, right? In the comment section, let me know, do you have a clear understanding of what I found myself made mention throughout this breakdown, right? Or you are like, nah, D, I don't understand nothing and I am short all the way. Let me know in the comment section. I will highly appreciate it, fam. Listen, it's super important to always follow your analysis, right? Because ultimately that is how you're gonna find yourself growing as a trader as well, right? By following your analysis. If you are finding yourself being wrong, don't beat yourself up for it, learn from it, right? And try to rectify yourself within that actual mistake whatsoever, right? Because that's ultimately how you are gonna learn independence when it comes down to your trading. All right, so that is it from me, your boy D. I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. I'm out.